Back Learnex. English forever.
The birth of the famous footwear brand Nike arose from the motivation of a curious athletic trainer from the University of Oregon, Bill Bowerman. When in 1950 he tried to give his athletes an advantage during competitions. One of his students, Phil Knight, who as a sports lover wanted to be part of the Bowerman team. As they discussed the future during long talks, they came to the conclusion that it was necessary to make changes to competitive shoes. Those changes and ideas became what motivated them to draft a proposal to some footwear manufacturing companies in Japan to persuade them to make modifications to their products and gain the dominance the sports footwear industry in the United States needed. Given the lack of response, the young man took the trouble to communicate with the Tiger brand of Onitsuka in Japan to propose that he was a distributor of the brand in the United States, assuring them that it would be a viable project due to the dissatisfaction of many athletes. The shoes first sold in Oregon, and finally they reached an agreement. Phil received his first royalties check months later, and the first thing he did was to tell the news to his coach and bring him some pairs to support sales. Bowerman preferred to make a proposal to join and make changes to the Tiger shoes. With the agreement made in 1960 and the monetary injection of $500 by the technician and the student, the company was born under the name of Blue Ribbon Sports, a distributor of sports shoes of the Japanese brand Tiger. They made their first order of more than 100 pairs of shoes starting in 1964. These pairs were sold by Knight at his store. Recalling Bowerman's curious spirit and his obsession with improving footwear for athletes, he altered some of the Tiger pairs to make modifications to make them lighter. Once the change was made, he told one of his runners to try them. The modifications did not give much results. As BRS was growing, it took time to handle sales, finances, and all the care that a distributor deserves. Neither Bowerman nor Knight had the time because they had other professions. Then they decided to put the athlete in charge of the company, Jeff Johnson, whom Knight had met at Stanford. Jeff not only achieved the duty that Bill and Phil had entrusted in him, but was a key piece in the progress of the small business. This young man focused on something fundamental, the advertising question. Johnson would create the first product booklets, print ads, and marketing material. To avoid unnecessary expenses, he himself took the photos for the catalogs of the company. As the company took off, mostly thanks to this, he had to think of a strategy that would allow him to serve people who could not get close to his physical location. As a result, he established a mail order system. This increased sales substantially, and over time, the trio decided to open its first retail store of Blue Ribbon Sports, located in Santa Monica, California. And Johnson would be in charge of controlling and the merchandise. Bowerman, Knight, and Johnson decided to end their ties with the Japanese company, so they worked on their own initiative with the creation of Nike. This name, inspired by the Greek goddess of victory, Nike. With all efforts placed on the project, they decided to make a leap from distributors to manufacturers and designers of their own brand of shoes for athletes, a desire for the coach since the beginning of the commercial journey. Subsequently, the Nike logo was developed by Carolyn Davidson, a graphic design student. Phil and Carolyn met at Portland State University, where he was an accounting professor. Several years later, as a thank you, Knight gave Carolyn a ring of gold and Nike stock. This admirable but simple and dynamic logo has its foundation in the wing of the Greek goddess Nike. Towards the year of 1972, the new Nike shoe line made its debut in the athletic events that were held in Oregon. The shoes created by Bowerman that had the waffle-like sole attracted the attention of the public, and even more when they knew that its function was to improve the traction when running, being lighter than other traditional shoes. In order to reaffirm their company, they decided to get an athlete to model their creations. The lucky one was Steve Prefontaine. He was chosen to be a great athlete and summoned thousands of people in his runs. He ran in the Olympics in Munich in 1972, wearing Nike shoes and generating great impact worldwide. Steve continued to be Nike's ambassador. In the 1980s, Nike launched Nike Air technology in the Tailwind model and simultaneously began trading on the stock market. 5 years after the 80s were the Nike boom, because they designed exclusive shoes for the premature NBA basketball player named Michael Jordan. This increased the profits considerably. Thinking of being leaders in the country, the company launched a strategy to differentiate itself from its competitors, developing a line called Air Max, the only line of footwear that made the air chambers of shoes visible. In the advertising theme, great resonance was generated with the slogan, "Just Do It," where a professional athlete named Bo Jackson appears. The propaganda narrates in an attractive way the benefits of the shoes, its versatility, and its multifunctionality. Subsequently, Nike makes the opening of its headquarters in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. At this time, they already had some influence in the world of golf and soccer. In 1994, the company would sign with several important players from Brazil. Since then, they have been the designers of the official garments of the Brazilian team, and of course, from a host of clubs today. When it comes to golf, Nike would sign with a young promise, Eldrick Tiger Woods, for an amount of $5 million a year. At first, many saw the contract as a total loss, until in 1997, Woods won the Masters. Nike launches another shoe line called Nike Shox, with consequences similar to those achieved by Air Max. This new line focused on a new damping system, which they developed for a period of over 15 years. In the 2002 World Cup, Nike would deploy its first marketing campaign worldwide, Secret Tournament. Currently, Nike is shown as a multinational company that is always in the constant search to innovate and develop the best products, reaching new markets such as Chinese and penetrating new sports such as football. Now, Nike garments not only adhere to sportswear, but has expanded its variety without losing the style that defines it. Its clothing occupies a place of prestige in millions of consumers. Nike's revenues worldwide in 2017 total about $34 million. Nike Inc., founded in January 1964, is a US-based company that sells sports equipment and clothing, and its logo is a symbol of the spirit of sports and self-improvement. This is it for this week's edition of Feedback Learnex. I'm Marilyn Dela Cruz, and I hope to see you all next week on Feedback Learnex.
Feedback Learnex, English Forever. Estamos en sintonía. Feedback Learnex, English Forever.